to announce protocols for the meeting.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us this evening. As you just heard, actually, Daniel, I see you. Are you able to hear us okay? Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure. Thank you. This meeting's being recorded, so we will post this on the town website after the meeting's completed. There's a closed captioning option for anybody that needs to follow along that way. For folks that want to make a comment, you can use either the raise hand function on Zoom. You can also chat with me on Zoom if you want to reach out that way. But we do ask people speak one at a time. If you do have a comment, say your name. If you're a Somerset resident, if you don't mind saying your street for the record. And then just one other housekeeping item is that if there's a discussion happening that you're not actively engaged in, if we could have you just turn off your camera, it makes it easier for the recording and for those following along. But otherwise, Mr. Mayor, turn it back over to you.
Okay, thank you. So we will begin with our public comment period. And I don't see anybody in the room. Did anyone in Zoom land wish to make a comment?
Well, we did get a comment that came in today about the later addition to the agenda, the resolution on anti-Semitism. And I do see actually Rohit Khanna with us today, so I don't know if you want to wait till that item is under consideration.
What's easier? Good evening, Ms. Committee Member Khanna.
Yes, good evening. I'm happy.
Did you want to wait? Did you want to wait until the item comes up, or did you
Yes,
want to make a comment now?
Yes, I can wait.
Okay, thank you
you.
so much.
Is there anybody? I guess there's somebody else.
I guess there's nobody else.
No other comments. Yeah.
Okay, so our next item is approval of the agenda as presented. Is there a motion? I see Circo and Barr. Is there a second? Is there discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed. Thank you. The next item is consideration of the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
So, we need to,
I see
however, we need an amendment.
Well, then. We're opening the previous motion. Well, wait a minute. So it was, I think it was moved and seconded. So now somebody wants to make an amendment.
Well,
Is
that's
that Councilor Barr?
to consider it, not to approve it. That was the consent agenda motion. So now it's being considered, and I'm saying
No,
before
but
we
it's,
approve it, we
I
need
think,
to amend it.
Councilmember Barr, it was, the agenda was moved and seconded, so it's on the floor. Did you want to make an amendment to the motion?
Yes,
Okay,
I do. Which is that among the committee chairs, David Sachs is listed as the incoming committee chair for equity and inclusion. David contacted.
it's not on, it's on this,
He's off this, if you look at this one, it's off.
Oh, all right.
it's on this.
It's has been removed, and because on the one I looked at 6:30, it was still there.
On your hard copy, it's off.
It's on there.
Yeah, I made a late change.
All right.
He made a change.
Hi, can you post it to the website?
Yeah, I'll
Because
follow
other
up.
people don't have it.
Yeah, I'll update.
Is there further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor? All those opposed, thank you. All right, the next item is public hearing motion to consider a permit application submitted by Daniel Bremer, Wartig, and Rebecca La Madrid to add a rear deck and wall at the property located at 5613 Warwick Place. So we will go into our hearing. And we will begin. This is a hearing before the Town of Somerset Council for permit application number 24-1 ADD to consider approval of a curb cut application submitted by Marco and Robin Rand.
Whoops, I'm sorry, I forgot to update that part, it's Daniel Bremer, we're taking it, it's
Okay.
Rebecca Lumsden.
You forgot to.
Sorry about that.
And
Working
I
off the
noticed
template.
that too, since I just read the names.
Mhm.
Submitted by Daniel Bremer Wartig and Rebecca Lamadrid
That should,
for construction of an addition to the existing house at the property located at 5613 Warwick Place. The hearing will observe the following order. First, the Somerset Town staff will present their findings and submit for the record a report on the application under consideration. Next, the applicant and their representatives will present their application or comment on the report. Next, the Somerset Town Council will have the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant or staff relevant to the application at hand. Council should introduce all findings of fact during their comments or questions. Next, other interested parties, including town residents, will have the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant or staff only, or make comments to the council, applicant, or staff. Fifth, the applicant will have the opportunity for rebuttal testimony, after which the public comment period of the hearing shall be completed and the record closed. No new information shall be considered or submitted for the record after this point. Finally, the council will deliberate and discuss among themselves the merits of the case, the findings of fact, and conclusions. The council may make a motion on the permit decision. And now I will turn it over to the town manager.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the applicants had submitted for a permit for an addition to their home back in October of 2022. And had completed that scope of work and are coming back to the council for an additional permit. They are requesting for a rear above ground deck that's approximately 400 square feet. Because the deck has the natural ground below it that allows water to seep through, we have considered that not to be an impervious surface addition. So stormwater management's not required for the deck. And as confirmed by the town's building administrator, Doug Lohmeyer, the deck complies with all other town requirements, notably the town setbacks. So the town staff does recommend that the deck permit be granted as it complies with the town code. I did make a note that the applicants are also seeking to replace their existing driveway and apron and construct a retaining wall on the side of that. The town code requires all new or replacement driveways be constructed of permeable materials. The applicant has made a compelling case that because of a soil stability report, the permeable pavers may not be appropriate for their driveway. And they've actually included a trench drain in their plans. But because of the way it's written, I believe that does require a variance. So we haven't duly noticed that variance. So I couldn't recommend approval of the driveway at this time. But just wanted to make note of that for the council to consider, and also to note that the applicants do intend to move forward with that work as well. Doug Lohmeyer is also here.
The retaining wall?
I'm sorry, yeah, the retaining wall does comply with the town code. It does actually require footers on the neighbor's property, but the applicants have received approval and assigned approval from the neighbors that they have permission to do the work on their property. So we recommend approval of the retaining wall on the condition that the identical permit from Montgomery County for the identical work first be received. That may be helpful. I think probably that work will go in tandem with the driveway work. So depending on how we proceed with that, that may factor into the council's decision making as well. Then the only other note I would say is that no trees are impacted by this work. So there's no tree protection or tree tree removals, tree replacement that are required for this project. I do note that we have our town building administrator online with us. So Doug, I don't know if you had anything to add.
No, you covered everything, Matt.
And so that
Yeah, we're good.
concludes the staff report.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Bremer, Wartig and Ms. Lemadrid, thank you for attending tonight. Did you wish to present anything additional or comment on the report, or are you just ready to take questions?
Well, as always, thank you to the town council and to the town staff. There's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes for you all to meet. And it's just greatly appreciated because I know you all do this on a volunteer basis. We're very excited about moving forward with this next step of our renovation and are indeed ready to take any questions from the town council or town staff.
Thank you. Council President Circo, do you have any questions?
Well, yes. I'd like to, I'm a little confused about exactly what we're considering in this application today. Is it just the deck? Is the deck plus the retaining wall, or is it the deck plus the retaining wall plus the driveway?
So the driveway, my recommendation was not to include the driveway because I had not noticed for the variance yet. But I did want to note it for the council that they are, it's on the site plan, so just to clear up any confusion, they do intend to do that, but I think the plan at this point is to notice for it and they'll probably come back for an amendment next month.
So what the council has been asked to consider tonight is
The deck
the deck and the retaining.
and the retaining, yes.
And maybe the town attorney can clarify that procedures. Oh, sure.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that is appropriate. It does not appear that the granting of the permit for the retaining wall would have any bearing on the variance hearing. The wall can exist without respect to what driveway adjoins it.
I did have a question about the retaining wall. I don't know if this is for you, Ron, or for our town engineer. But what I heard was that the footing for the retaining wall is actually going to be on the neighbor's property.
That is correct.
So does that require special approval from the county? Does that impact property lines? I mean, it's great that the neighbors are willing to do it, but do they have the authority to do it?
So with the neighbor's approval, the town grants the authority, and there is in the record, as you know, the signed consent letter from the neighbors. I can't tell you what, if anything, additional the county will require. I know the county requires a letter from the neighbors when you put a fence on the property line. But yeah, I don't know what they'll do in this instance.
Okay, but that's separate from our consideration. We don't need to.
Indeed, and town approval would be conditioned upon the county issuance of a permit before any work would start.
Can I ask a follow-on question for Mr. Ron? And that is, when, let's say everybody sells their houses, or the last people sell their house. The people that buy their house, do they have any right to say, hey, that's my property? You know, get your retaining wall off my property kind of thing.
Yes, they would, unless this consent were to be recorded as an easement in land records. The current consent would expire when the current neighbor moves away.
Joyce.
No further questions.
Councilor Var, do you have any questions?
I'm ready to approve the deck and the retaining wall. And I can see we cannot approve the driveway at this time. I will point out, by the way, that the driveway slopes down towards the house. And we actually haven't considered that in our code at all, when we thought about permeable driveways. But in any case, when it slopes down towards the house, the homeowners need to manage the water, because otherwise it's going to run into the house. So there's a real incentive to do that.
So point is that?
That's-
Thank you. Councilor Heller, do you have any
Um,
questions?
I don't have any questions, but I just want to thank you both for working so well with your neighbors. I love to see when neighbors work together, so thank you.
Councilor Kumar.
We can ask question to the applicant.
Of course.
Just a question to the applicants, Daniel, Rebecca, are you? I don't know if you wanted to add anything to your opening statement and if you're comfortable with the town manager's interpretation of your application.
Yeah, so just a comment in response to the requirements by Montgomery County. So the application is underway and we were there is a consent form that was required by the county to approve the construction of the wall on our side of the property, but without the setbacks. And so that form has been signed and signed by the neighbors and submitted for Montgomery County. That's one part. The other part of that is the wall is on our property. What the neighbors have consented to is the footing of the wall, which is subterranean. And so that and we suspect that the current footing of the wall currently sits on the property of the neighbor already. So in terms of construction, we're planning on, if it is in good condition, in stable condition, to use that footing again, if at all possible. So those are comments in terms of your just responses. And then the under the footing intrudes about 14 inches onto the property of the neighbors, again underground.
And just to follow up, thank you for that clarification. The town manager's summary, where on the driveway item, his recommendation was that there might be a variance that need to be sought. Do you have anything to say on that?
Absolutely. So of course we would love to save all of you time and be able to do it all in one fell swoop. The issue came back. Well, let me take a step back and remind the council when we started the project. Now the approvals of the project about 2 years ago, we had to stabilize the slope that our house sits on with 3 retaining walls. Because the geotechnical engineers had confirmed that the slope was imminent to fail. Question mark when, but it was going to fail. And so in those studies, the geotechnical engineer did come back and say, we should watch the amount of water, the amount of weight that is put in general in terms around the site. And to be frank, I appreciate Council members Barr's comment. We had issues. We had flooding issues before, and so as part of the renovations, we made sure to plan for water management on the property and to keep it away from the house, but still manage it on the property. So that's the only comment there. I think in the meantime, when we started the process and where we're now, the stormwater management guidance changed, and that's where maybe the impervious surface was required. But we're happy to write the variance application for the next town council meeting if that's the standing recommendation.
Thank you.
I have a question. Councilor Rovak.
I don't have any questions.
Okay, Mr. Town Manager, has any resident or guest indicated they wish to comment or ask a question about this?
No other public comments.
Okay, with that, I will turn it over to our distinguished council president to lead the discussion and decision.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This seems pretty straightforward. I have no further questions or issues. I don't know. Any questions, comments, issues?
No, I'm happy to approve the part. We can approve.
Right, great.
I'm of the same view. I would welcome any reflections on the proposed variance that might be sought. If we have any perspectives based on what has already been submitted. And a comment made by Councilmember Barr about the slope.
That's I think that's a great observation, Robin, when we're developing stormwater recommendations, we're focusing on measures to protect runoff from going onto neighbors, onto the street,
Not into the house.
not into the house. This is a modest slope. The only question I guess I want to look at a little bit closer when we actually consider the driveway would be the neighbors who are next to that driveway.
What does that flow look like?
What does that flow look like? But actually, as I look at the instruction, even though it might be considered or it is considered impervious driveway, that you have 4-inch slots between the concrete slabs, which seem to be an opportunity to let some amount of water filter through.
And the French drain.
And the French drain
resident.
Yeah.
Across the way.
Okay, so I don't anticipate having, unless we hear from residents or neighbors who are concerned about it, I don't think there are issues with the driveway. And maybe this highlights, we talk about lessons learned with our code, or maybe we need to make some modification to make it clear what we're trying to achieve.
I'm good.
Okay, are you, it sounds like you're prepared to make a motion.
Okay, I'll go ahead and make a motion. I move that we approve the permit application submitted by Daniel Bremer Wertig and Rebecca Lamadrid to add a rear deck and wall at the property located 5613 Warwick Place.
Okay, Mr. Town Attorney, is that legally and technically sufficient?
Yeah, do we need to stipulate that for the wall, we need to come to?
Yes, that should be added to the motion. It was part of the building
Summary.
permit administration
So,
recommendation.
Commissioner,
So you-
Do
you
a friendly amendment?
Would you,
Just
well, you don't have, I mean, I don't think it needs your, no.
No.
Because it's already written down, so can you just state for the record what
Yes,
the wording?
approved with the conditions recommended by the building permit administrator.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded, is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? All those opposed, thank you, Bremer, Wartig, Lamadrid family.
On the
Welcome.
contrary, thank
We wanna
everybody.
Welcome you again. I think you've moved in since we were all together.
The house looks great.
No, they've already, they
Congratulations.
lived there before, but they just did a renovation.
I know that they moved out.
and then-
Oh, but they moved in, I mean, they still lived here.
Yes, we're very happy.
But they didn't live in that house. right?
No,
Welcome back.
welcome
We're
back.
excited.
Welcome back to Warwick.
We're excited that you're back on the best street in Somerset.
There you go. Thank you, everybody.
Sounds a little biased. which I'm a little biased, but
Right.
I'm just saying, and I'm excited that we are on schedule.
Don't even say that. Okay, the next item is the building administrator's report. Mr.
Turn it
Lowe.
over to Doug, yep.
No worries, I'll ask a lot of questions.
Are you, you might be muted, Doug.
Doug,
I
are
don't
you
know if
muted?
you're-
I think you're muted.
Even there?
He's there. There we go. Think you're on,
Sorry.
you're unmuted now, so I think you're good.
4515 Dorset, the applicant applied for a permit to construct a detached garage. The council approved the application in August. The permit was issued on September 15th and work has begun on that project. At 4815 Essex, the council last month approved a variance to enlarge the existing front porch and stoop, and that work is ongoing. And at 5528 Trent, the property owner has removed the existing house. They are excavating now for the basement. The town permit was issued on December 19th. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Council President Circa, do you have any questions?
No questions, thank you, Doug.
Councilor Barr,
I have no questions.
Councilor Heller, do you have any questions?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Councilor Kumar. Councilor Rovak.
No questions.
What? Okay, thank you, Mr. Lohmeyer. The next item, public, which is listed as this, public hearing motion to consider the introduction of a resolution condemning anti-Semitism. So I guess I'm presenting this and I want to apologize because I think that there's been, the staff and I made a few errors about the way this is presented and also the process. So let me just give you a little history, which is I think you all got a copy of the email from, was it like a month ago? The mayor of Chevy Chase. They have issued a resolution condemning anti-Semitism, and she was Irene Lane, and she was encouraging all of the neighboring municipalities to do the same. So, and this came in after, I think, the work session, and then I believe we wanted to put it on the agenda originally as approving a resolution on the non-consent agenda. But now it's come up as an introduction. So I think that what I would like to do is just take questions and then allow the public, because two residents, of course, made some very outstanding comments about the, and I'm glad, because this just was just put out to the town today, so I'm glad anybody even commented. And so we don't necessarily, I don't think that Mayor Lane expects the town to pass it tonight, but you can if you want to. And so I'll just leave it at that. And after there's questions, then we'll have a public comment period, and then you can decide how you want to handle it. Council President Circo.
Glad you brought it forward and I have no questions.
Okay, Councilor Barr.
I'm wondering whether it should go back to the work session, given the comments that Rohit comments and Eric made, which are spot on. The issue is that we are seeing hate incidents in the county, not only anti-Semitic, but also anti-Muslim and even anti-Sikh, in the mistaken assumption that Sikhs are Muslims. They're not. And so the question is, do we want one resolution covering all of those actions of hate, or do we want specific resolutions for each of those groups? Actually,
So I think that's a good idea, especially because ordinarily, if we'd gotten something like this, we would have referred it to the Equity and Inclusion Committee, which right now doesn't have a chair. So I think it might be a good idea to put out some information about it and do a work session and maybe have it next month. Councilmember Heller.
I agree with Robin. I think it's something we have to talk about. In light of what's going on in this world, especially it's a very hot button issue. And I know our schools right now are riddled with anti-Semitism. So I think we have a big discussion on this actually, and how do we marry this kind of statement against hate? I think we have to do something. And do we have to support, Mayor Lane? I think we have a discussion.
It's a work session.
Yeah, it's a work session.
Thank you, Councilmember Kumar.
Well, I mean, I think I'm comfortable introducing this resolution. Should be comfortable with condemning. I think it doesn't preclude us from condemning other things that we are uncomfortable with, that hate in all forms, which we can also do. So I don't see this as necessarily not condemning other forms of hate. I think I'm comfortable with the intent of this and the origination of this, but happy to take it back to the work session.
But that is one option. You could introduce it tonight. It could still go to the work session.
Exactly.
Yeah, and also other residents might want to comment on it. You could also have, I think that,
And we can amend it after.
Right.
Yeah.
right. And also, I think that the impetus for this resolution that we got from Mayor Lane was only anti-Semitism. But we have the option of adding anything we want, but that was their original, as I think you all know, because didn't you all read the email? I think that it was their reaction to the anti-Semitism issue, but there's no reason why we can't enlarge it. So do you, okay, Councilor Roca, do you have any?
No.
Okay, And now, I think, Mr. Khan
Yeah, we have,
would like to make a comment.
yep, a comment from one of our residents, Mr. Kana. Feel free to go ahead.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Thank you very much. As I understand it now, you're proposing perhaps to go back to a work session of the council. So I will then just
The
simply,
council is going to introduce it, but then it wouldn't be voted on tonight, and it would also be the subject of a work session, and then it would information we put in the town journal and comments from residents would be encouraged, and perhaps it would be considered next month.
okay. So I would just want to then reiterate what I wrote to the council, which is to summarize that we fully support the intent of this resolution, and we appreciate very much that the council has drafted it, and we welcome the message of sort of tolerance and inclusion that the town is sending. With that in mind, it is our view that the draft should be broader, and that it should be entitled a statement condemning bigotry, hate speech, discrimination, and attacks on religious institutions, that it should explicitly condemn all such acts against any and all religions and religious institutions, and should state explicitly that the town should stand united against attacks against any religion. And I think, as I said in my message to you, there has been a significant surge in Islamophobic and anti-Arab attacks, incidents of bias and harassment. You are all well aware of these incidents. They're in the national news. Unfortunately, our county is not immune to that. These acts are taking place in our schools, in our neighborhoods as well. And I think it's extremely important, therefore, for the council to send a clear message that it condemns all such acts. And therefore, my major concern is that this draft does not send an adequately strong signal against Islamophobia and anti-Arab racism. I think the sort of a second point, as I raised, is I would certainly appreciate clarification, and I think it's a matter of discussion in the council on how we are defining the scope of anti-Semitism. Of course, we are all completely opposed to any form of bigotry and violence and hate speech and attacks of any kind. But as you are all very well aware, in the context of today's political environment in the United States and globally, if anti-Semitism is going to be defined as criticizing criticizing the policies of the government of Israel, or expressing support for the people of Palestine, then this is a matter of some discussion and debate. We think that it is extremely important that we are not sending a signal in the town that if any neighbor of ours expresses support for the rights of Palestinians, that somehow they shall be labeled anti-Semitic. So I think it is extremely important to promote harmony, peace, tolerance, and goodwill amongst all religious groups, and that we send a clear signal that we are for the rights of all communities to practice their faiths, and that we are not drafting separate resolutions, that we are somehow saying that one resolution will come now and maybe another later. I think it's important for the council to speak with one voice in one comprehensive statement. on this subject. And so I think it should be done sooner rather than later, given the fact that this is happening, as you rightly point out, all over our county and Maryland and the United States. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Mr. Khan, I think it would be very helpful if you turned your letter into an article for the town journal. Can you do that?
Yeah, I'll certainly look into that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Can I answer?
Okay, now no, it's not.
No, sorry.
Okay, so now I'm gonna turn it over to the distinguished council president to decide if you want to introduce it tonight. What do you want to do?
I think this is obviously, as folks have said, a national topic, but we're looking at it locally. I agree with Kabir's comment that, of course, we agree that we want to take a stand against anti-Semitism. From a council perspective, I have a bit of a process question. This might be getting what you were talking about. Normally our resolutions come through one of our. And I don't know if this has been looked at all by
Yeah.
any of our committees.
The equity and inclusion rate is the obvious committee, and they're not functional at the moment because they lack a chair. That's the problem.
I'm getting the chair of this.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
No, it had, no. This was an issue that came as a request from the town of Chevy Chase.
Right.
So,
Motivated by certain incidents,
yeah.
which are mentioned in the resolution.
And so there's no, I mean, I think that it would be a good idea to introduce it just so that it's on the table. And then this is the opportunity for lots of public discussion on what it should be. It can be discussed at the work session. And then when it's considered at a future meeting, you can decide how you want to amend it.
I agree with that. And I
Because
think
at least you have a
Rohit-
baseline.
and I think we are all in agreement with what Rohit highlighted, that you would want to signal anything that was exclusionary. So when we otherwise work session. we can work on it. But I am comfortable introducing it because I think we should condemn anti-Semitism. I don't think it means we are somehow not condemning other things despite the charged environment in which we're living in. And we can keep that as clear. And this was motivated by specific incidents that were very proximate. to
Okay, so you're moving the introduction. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Heller, is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Okay, so it has been introduced and now, how are we gonna do? We'll have the town manager write it out. Sure.
And we have 60 days.
We
With
do,
respect to,
We have 60 days.
with respect to an ordinance,
Yeah.
so our
Yeah. and
Legislative-
Sorry, I didn't mean to
the
jump.
resolution, you can do it in a, you could pass a resolution tonight.
We make sure that it's on our work session agenda for the next meeting.
Yes, we will. Okay, isn't it supposed to be? Passive?
So I had written it up so that everything by the council is by resolution, so it's just a resolution that's adopting the updated.
But it's not an introduction.
No,
Well, I thought we decided that things are introduced, even resolutions are introduced and adopted.
Well, that's.
We're not required to, but I thought
yeah,
by policy, that's what we had decided.
Oh, so that's the language, but so the council could consider this tonight.
They could adopt it. There's nothing that prohibits us from.
This one needs to be acted on. Okay, so it's introduced. Oh, I see.
Right.
Okay,
yeah,
so the next item. So this says.
yes.
Okay. Public hearing motion to consider the introduction of a resolution establishing
Oh.
20.
We don't have a hearing for introduction, just for adoption.
that's right.
I thought
Yeah,
this was
sorry.
adoption, my mistake.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
But no, I agree with Matt. general policy is that we do introduce then adopt unless the council makes an exception.
Okay, so that means that this is only gonna be introduced tonight.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, just to clear up any confusion, so. So when an issue like this is on the agenda,
Sorry, what are we talking about?
we're talking about. Okay, this is a motion to consider the introduction of a resolution establishing the 2020 pool rules. So as was discussed at the work session. The council decided to move this forward as an introduction this month. Which means if you introduce it, then it's published, your comments, and you vote on it with the next month. Okay. So, Council President Serpa, you have any questions? No questions. Councilor Ball.
Only who's writing the journal article.
Maybe, actually, for the record, you might want to highlight what were the changes in the pool rules.
Okay, yeah, I'll touch base with the pool
I have,
committee chair.
I
No, no.
have three, I have three.
No, but why don't you? I should have turned it over to you. What are the changes in the pool rules that?
Want me to do it?
Sure, yeah, I'll defer to
Okay,
Councilmember
yeah.
Heller.
The three major changes were that we're gonna allow service animals at the pool. Okay, we were changing the age that counts as an adult to be 13 to align with Montgomery County definitions, legal age to babysit. That's what it is, and making all the pool property be non-smoking. Those are the three major changes of the pool.
And then one other more just formality that we made a slight change on after the work session is we eliminated the specific dollar amounts for the fees from the rules and just referenced the fee
Right.
more generally so that fees can be adopted by a fee schedule by resolution.
Okay, is that it?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Hearing that, Council President Serpa, do you have any questions?
No, no question.
Councilor Bar, you have any questions?
No questions.
I assume you're cool. Councilor,
No question.
Councilor Rodovan.
Wait, can you tell me about the part about the age again?
I didn't quite understand it. Montgomery County's age for legal, to be a legal person to babysit is 13.
Yeah,
So we changed, I guess, this is actually the first I'm hearing of it.
oh, in the wading pool, children must be accompanied in the wading pool enclosure by a supervising adult 13 years and
Yes,
older.
yeah.
Okay, got that.
So we're just being parent, you know.
But you can still go to the pool
Yeah.
without a parent.
Right, because that's a different category.
I like my daughter, I gotta.
Don't lose your breath here, it's fine, she can go. No, that's a different category. We've decided that you can be, what is it, 8 years old and go to the pool?
Yeah,
Okay, but you can't babysit at the pool. if
yeah,
you're
that would be bad.
8. Okay, you can't supervise a kid in the Hoosie pool, you know, the baby
Agreed.
pool, you know, so that's the difference. I'm losing my words, okay?
Got
Okay, so
agree.
Councilor Heller, are you prepared to introduce the resolution,
Yes, I
to move
introduced.
the
Do I
introduction?
have to make it formal? Okay.
Just that you move the.
I move the introduction.
Okay, is there a second? Second, see Councilor. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those. in-
Sorry, just one comment, is there some typos in this?
Really?
Well, like,
Yeah, okay.
the
Well,
general
no.
index is section 4, and the title of section 4 is section 4 made pool, but.
I'll clarify
Okay.
those before it's adopted, I'll
Yeah,
speak, but that's all.
Okay, is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Okay, so now it's introduced. And I think your intent was that now these changes will be published in the town journal. And then, if necessary, amendments can be made next month
Right,
or whenever it's on the agenda.
yes.
Okay, excellent. The next item is a public hearing motion to consider the adoption of a resolution establishing reasonable accommodation procedures, Mr. Town Manager.
Yeah, this is, we discussed this at the last council meeting as well, that we had one of these come before us and it just sort of made us realize that we didn't have a formal policy by which to consider reasonable accommodation requests. So this codifies that, uses the standard practice that our town attorneys recommended, and that pretty much covers it, but Andrew can answer any other questions people might have.
Okay, thank you. Council President Serpa, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Councilor Barr.
Well, a technical one only, which is that adopting the policy after two, reasonable accommodation West Warwick Road. Does the policy apply to those when the ownership changes? I think we built it into the approvals anyway, so we're all right. But
We did. That's right, Councilmember Barr.
Okay.
This policy wouldn't be retroactive per se, but.
I think we built it into the.
Right.
Are you okay with the answer? Yep. Okay, Councilor Heller, any questions?
No.
Councilor Kumar? No. Councilor Rovak,
No,
are there comments or questions? from our residents or-
No comments or questions.
Okay, thank you. Council, you prepared to make a motion?
Move that we consider the adoption of a resolution establishing reasonable accommodation procedures.
Second.
And seconded by Kumar. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? All those opposed, thank you. The next item, public hearing motion to consider the adoption of a resolution in support of the Maryland Municipal League legislative priority advocating for a state bill that would allow municipalities to issue citations for red light cameras and advocating for municipalities to use stop sign cameras as recommended by the traffic committee. And I think I will ask Councilmember Barr to present this.
Sure, yeah, we've actually discussed this before, and this is when the resolution was introduced. It is, MML is going ahead with a two-part priority. One is to, I think it is speed cameras and red light cameras, actually, to make it easier for municipalities to get speed cameras and red light cameras, but also to allow municipal officers to do the citation directly. At the moment, it has to be the police officer who does the citation, and municipalities who don't have police forces have an awkward situation then under those circumstances. So that's why
the right for Matt to issue.
yes, it would give Matt the right to issue tickets. I'm sure he would take it very seriously. Now, the one that we want, they're not doing. MML is not actually seeking legislative authority for municipalities to have cameras on stop signs. So we are requesting that separately, and we're saying that we should go to our legislators and seek that separately from MML. I've already started doing that. I have talked to one member of the Transportation Environment Committee who is actually in favor of municipalities getting stop sign cameras, and I've already opened the window to Mark Foreman so that I will have a conversation with him. He is chair of the Transportation Environment Committee. So
Okay.
that's where we are.
So we're gonna get a chance, but I just want to add to the report on this item that so just so you get an understanding of the procedure. So normally our delegation will only, they meet throughout the summer, and then in the fall, they decide what they're gonna introduce. So we've already missed the window for this year for the item that.
Yeah, it'll be 2020.
So, but we are early for next year, so I would suggest that at some point. Before the summer, that the council consider a resolution in support of the. Issue that Councilmember Barr just stated, the secondary issue, so that it can then go through the process with our delegate.
It's part of this, it is part of this resolution, though. I mean, it's there.
No, that second one, you said that they're not introduced.
You know that, but that's a stop sign cameras, and it is part of this resolution, so that the second part of this resolution is and advocating for municipalities to use stop sign cameras as recommended by the traffic committee. So it is part of this resolution.
Okay, but. So you had been saying that part of this
MML not
motion.
that,
But our but, okay, but this item is in support of the MML legislative priority. What I'm saying is sometime between now and June, the council can advocate to the Montgomery County delegation introduce that legislation. That's what I'm saying.
Sure, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Councilor Circa, do you have any questions?
No question.
Councilmember Heller.
My question is on the cameras, on the speed, on the stop sign cameras. That my understanding, like in DC, is that the revenue from those. Well, actually, no, maybe it's in Maryland, that when Maryland has these, if they have them, somebody has them.
Chevy Chase Village.
Okay, check that the revenue does not go to Chevy Chase Village, but it goes to the state. or the county.
No, in Chevy Chase Village it does because they have their own police department.
Do you have to have your own police department to get the revenue?
For speed monitoring system, you have to have your own police or contract with a police officer to issue the tickets. The revenue belongs to the jurisdiction that operates the camera. And as the mayor said, the Chevy Chase Village, the cameras revenue goes to Chevy Chase Village. State law dictates what you can spend it on. You have to spend it on public safety initiatives, repair the sidewalks, whatnot.
But they use it to fund their police department because they have a full police
Right.
department.
Okay, just wondering about that.
But just to also add on quickly to Councilmember Barr's point, one of the issues that's being raised is also to expand the authority of who can issue tickets for municipalities, so.
I got that part. I just
You
wondered.
would
about
be
the
able
revenue.
to.
So that
Oh,
I can.
big show.
Yeah.
But don't get it. I mean, it's nice that we're doing this, but don't get excited. These kind of things rarely pass.
No, I'm done. Thank you.
Councilor Kumar, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I am nervous about the, ubiquity of all of these cameras. For privacy implications, stop signs, lights is one thing, but stop signs are more ubiquitous. Makes me nervous. But I'm in support of the traffic committee's desires to make things safer, so. But it would be good to have a discussion on that, if this comes into our.
That it is to get the authority, of course, it's not making the decision to have. it.
Yeah, I'm all in favor of getting us more authority, period, but this one, tricky, I think would require some knowledge, so I'm not.
Because
Okay.
because if we,
Councilor Remington.
if we can put them on our stop signs, we get the decision whether or not our town gets a decision whether or not we should put them on the stop signs.
Yeah, well, right, but we would have to decide separately to have cameras on, decide which intersections we were going to put the cameras on, so if we're going to have cameras at all, that all is after we get the legislative authority to do it.
Got it.
Well, that's the way it's written now, but once it goes to the legislature, it could be totally changed.
Yeah.
Well, and then, I mean, just hypothetically. If we were to have stop sign cameras on our stop signs, like right now. And our off-duty police, our police officers that we currently have, would they be able to write those tickets for our town?
So it depends on how the collective bargaining agreement between the county and the Fraternal Order of Police is interpreted. That collective bargaining agreement does allow police officers to engage in selective traffic enforcement, which would indicate they could. On the other hand, that agreement also says their work and secondary employment cannot interfere with their work for the county and their primary role. And one potential conflict there is that these tickets can be appealed to court. And the appeal may be heard on the day they're not working for the town, they're working for the county. So I think it's something that would have to be negotiated and worked out with the county.
Another, okay, so years ago, when the county got those speed cameras and they decided where they would be placed, they had limits in number. Isn't that correct, Mr. Townshend?
Yes.
And so this was an issue in our town at the time. This must have been, I don't know, 20 years ago. And we tried to lobby to get the county to put a speed camera on Dorset, but it would be totally under their control and they would get the revenue. But we didn't really care about that at the time because we just wanted to address speeding.
Yeah.
But there was only a limited number of cameras that were purchased, and they're not gonna pick a little road like ours when they have all these
Yeah.
highways where there's all kind. So I don't know where that stands now, but how many cameras they have now, but I think that's the current authority, right? So for some reason, the county, if we lobby them, they do have the ability to come and do a speed camera in Somerset. But it's unlikely that they would.
Yeah,
Is
I
that right?
imagine there'd have to be a
A
demonstrable,
compelling reason.
yeah,
right?
there is such a camera, as the mayor knows, on Connecticut. And in Chevy Chase Views borders, and one in Kensington as well, that the county operates. And
There, one.
That's
There's
an
one on
extra-
Wisconsin, Hunt.
But, so his point is that, okay, so the point that he's making is that, so Chevy Chase Village, they have their own cameras and get the money. But Chevy Chase View and Kensington were able to lobby the state because this major highway goes through their town.
Right. And
So-
deaths have occurred on those roads.
Yeah, and we wouldn't be able
That's
to do that for, I mean, we would love it,
Mhm.
because you know how much we love our town, but it's unlikely. It's
Yeah,
unlikely.
I'll just say one final word on the operation of these cameras, because all they do is they take a picture of the license plate of the car that is violating whatever it is. And the owner of the car, that license plate is the person who gets the citation, who may not be the driver, in fact.
Mhm.
So it's not a question of identifying the driver, it isn't, it goes to the owner of the car. And that's-
Just like the speeding camera tickets.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Okay,
Just to clarify
Mr.
one thing.
Mr. Manager, are there any comments or questions?
Jeffrey, I just want to clarify one thing.
Oh,
Shannon's question, our police today, it's got nothing to do with the cameras. But our off-duty police can today issue tickets.
Well, yes,
Yes,
of county law, not of town law.
but they can, right? They can issue tickets today.
Yes,
But
they do not
what-
lose their authority as a county police officer when they're secondarily employed in the town.
Because of
They're not
violation,
supposed
like,
to,
running a stop sign. Is the same in Somerset as it is in the county, it's the same violation, so they can issue tickets.
But they don't.
They do if following county law, they are allowed to. right?
well,
They don't.
it's a complicated issue. So, under the collective bargaining agreement, they're not supposed to engage in,
County business.
not surveillance, what's the word?
Patrol.
Patrol, thank you. They're allowed to monitor specific areas. And they can issue violations under county law.
They can,
But,
just, I just wanna put it
what
underline.
the officers may tell you is that if we do that, 9 out of 10 citations or 99 out of 100 citations are gonna be town residents.
Yes,
And so,
yes,
politically, you have to decide whether you want
but they
to
can,
request that.
just to be 100%.
Enforcement.
Yeah, but I
Okay.
just want you to know, they are legally today, because it is a violation anywhere, it's the same violation, they can.
They should.
They have.
well,
They
I think
don't.
that,
Well, that's the issue, that's a separate issue of
Yeah.
our guidance to them.
that's a whole other issue,
Yeah.
but, to address something that the town attorney just said, I believe that when the secondarily employed officers were hired 20 years ago, it was, they were operating under a different agreement. And I think at that time, they had complete power to issue tickets.
Yeah, I mean, the issue was
But then they got a new bargaining.
they were hired originally to monitor traffic and to issue tickets for speeding and for violating stop signs. And they didn't do that. Now, it may be because their agreement made it much more difficult for them.
No,
I don't
they
believe
did-
that's true.
No, they didn't do it because they had no protocols from the town.
Oh, and Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
say, I see it's 8 o'clock.
Yeah, We've already
adopted that No, we haven't.
I mean-
We haven't yet. Go ahead.
Just to expand on something I said earlier, just to give you a complete answer, I believe the collective bargaining agreement says they can use their patrol cars if you reimburse the county for use of the car.
Oh, so we. Okay, thank you. So,
All right.
is there,
We adopt the resolution to, in support of the Maryland Municipal League legislative priority advocating for state bill that will allow municipalities to issue citations for red light cameras and other cameras. And advocating for, and separately advocating municipalities to use stop sign cameras as recommended by the traffic. Committee.
is there a second? I saw Sarko, is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? All those opposed, thank you. The next item, public hearing motion to consider the adoption of an ordinance to amend the code of ordinances to clarify that above grade stormwater collection and drainage devices, including micro bioretention boxes, are subject to building regulations. Mr. Town Manager.
So just as a quick refresher, in preliminary discussions with some construction projects, this has started to come up and also has begun to crop up in neighboring municipalities around us that are grappling with some of the same issues as us. In essence, what it creates is the opportunity to make essentially little bioretention gardens in urban environments. And so some people are using that on properties like we have in Somerset. But there's very little guidance on, and the county has shown reluctance to issue any sort of restrictions on the sizing and setbacks of where these are. So we are considering adopting tonight, what would set some parameters for these types of structures that would, number one, just clarify that anecdotally, what we've seen sometimes is it's not connected to the house, but it's maybe separated by 6 inches. So we've put in here that if it's within a certain distance of the house, it's considered part of the building structure. And otherwise says that we have, if you remember, we don't allow encroachments into our setbacks. We eliminated those aspects of our code. This does allow for these micro bioretention boxes that are 12 inches or less to encroach 3 feet into a setback. But if it's above 12 inches, the same no setback encroachment applies. And I think that basically covers the gist of it. I don't know if the town attorney wanted to add anything.
Perfect, but 3 feet into the side and rear, not in the front.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, and I do want to point out for the record that the town manager and the town attorney. This was your initiative, right?
Yes, Mr.
And you
Mayor,
worked
as a
very
result
hard.
of experience.
And you worked very hard on it. Appreciate it. Council President Sarko, do you have any questions?
No, I think this is great to sort of get ahead of a potential issue that people are encountering issue.
Councilor Barr, do you have any questions?
I've got no questions. I understand the need for it, and I agree it's a practical solution.
Councilor Hello,
Questions?
Councilor Kumar, no questions. Councilor Rebel.
So it doesn't change like the setbacks for the actual house. This is just for,
Right, it would allow this micro bioretention box to be up to 3 feet into the setback as long as it's less than 1 foot high. But only the micro bioretention box.
So very close to the ground,
yeah,
extending out towards the setback.
And the reason we landed on 12 inches was because that's the cutoff for a wall on our
okay,
in our code, so it's consistent with kind of standards that we've already set.
okay. I have no other questions.
Okay, thank you. Are there comments or questions from the residents?
No,
Council, you prepared to make a motion?
So, yes. I move that we adopt an ordinance to amend the code of ordinances, clarify that above grade stormwater collection drainage devices, including micro bioretention boxes, are subject to building regulations.
Is there a second? Okay, is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? All those opposed, thank you. And our final item is the manager's. I think tonight you were gonna talk a little bit about finances.
yeah, we talking to the council president, I just it's the midway point of the year, so just take an extra moment or so to kind of go through our finances through the year. So as I said, we're midway through the year, and starting in November we get our first really big income tax tranche, which, if you remember, income tax is our main revenue driver in town. So we get that, we get those funds in December. So in the last month, we really start to kind of get a clearer picture of where we are, where we'll be at the end of the year. All in all, I mean, I think the town should be in a strong position regarding our income. I had an email back and forth with the budget committee chair. Based on kind of our back of the envelope math, we expect income tax to be about $250,000 over what we had budgeted for. We were conservative purposefully with our budget. Lower than FY23, but again, that was anticipated in part because of COVID, ARPA stuff, all that. But we also should receive a large reconciliation payment for income taxes in January. So that's where a lot of it fluctuates year to year. So even next month, it should come in next month, but if not, certainly March, we'll have a good idea on that as well. Property taxes, our second biggest revenue is right around where we budgeted. John Medalia is kind of our resident property tax expert on the budget committee. Big picture on expenses. We've made some significant payments on several of our large capital expenses. And then in the actual budget document, I kind of highlighted for you some of the small budget items that we're going to need to clear up to do a budget amendment to fix it, but also noting that's considering we haven't touched any of our budget contingency. So we always build in a budget contingency knowing we may not get it exactly dollar to dollar, but some of the items that are either trending or are a little bit above what we expected. Building administration, I think our new stormwater code has added a layer of complexity that even though we have a separate stormwater review, there's still a little bit more back and forth with Doug and applicants on that. The other one that we've spent a good chunk of what we budgeted, though we're not above yet, is some of the landscaping stuff, because we did the big planting over there, and we had some fixing up of signs at the pool, a few other kind of projects that we had Enrique's company come help us out with. So I just highlighted that one just so that we're kind of on top of it and continue to monitor it as the year goes along. In terms of the major capital expenses, so the pool deck is ongoing. We've spent about a little under $500,000 of our budgeted almost $870,000. So any unforeseen expenses will be reported to you. We haven't had anything major. The only real change we needed to swap out soil because the soil was poor at the pool, which probably not a surprise as we've seen from some building projects. The streetlight replacements all paid for at this point. The only thing I didn't mention in here is that for any of the shades that we put on, I haven't got a clear answer from Pepco on exactly what, if any, cost there is associated with that.
How do they fix their mistakes?
They did. I went out and checked, so they have rectified the not mistakenly labeled, the mistaken wattage lights that were put up primarily on Cumberland Avenue. We finished the solar panel installations, and actually on Friday I got the link to be able to start tracking that. We probably won't really see the fruits of that until the spring when we get more sunshine. But that work's done, so that's exciting. Stormwater project and evaluation over in the area between Dorset, Essex, Warwick, and Surrey. That should start late this month into February. So we know what we've budgeted for that this year, so we should come in under budget on that. the one I did want to note was the roadways, walkways, master plan, that whole project. We got the roadway assessment, and I've been talking with Dewberry to kind of follow up that townwide evaluation to help us then take the next step, use that data, put together a long-term, medium-term plan for maintenance and repairs of our streets, sidewalks, curbs, gutters, things like that. So those are two items that, you know, we'll be thinking about when the budget comes along next year. The only other thing I wanted to note, the budget season's coming up. So last year we held our first budget meeting in mid-February. So just as a heads up, probably in February, the council will probably set work session dates for the budget. And then the only other exciting thing is that the youth council is anticipating to meet in 2 weeks. So kick that project off.
Yay.
But otherwise, happy to answer questions or discuss.
Thank you, Council President Circa, do you have any questions?
Yes, so first, thank you very much, Matt. We talked about this, and this is just what I was looking for to keep the council apprised of where we stand, how things have been going over the course of the year. And perhaps get us to start thinking about the coming budget and what does this mean in terms, particularly in terms of our income, real estate, and income tax, and our various expenses. I have one question about streetlights. Where's that 68,105? So we don't see previous year's budgets. Was our budget for street lighting expenses lower this year than it had been in the past? Because we're anticipating being all over these, but we're not quite there
Yeah,
as soon as we thought.
what we did is we halved it. So we usually are in around that 30, just above $30,000. So we budgeted 16,000. We just got our first bill with the new LED streetlights, so we're gonna start to see lower bills. So it's not gonna be double what you're seeing, but it will probably be above that 16,000 that we budgeted.
But then you'll also be getting some good data for us to.
Exactly.
prepare
Yes.
budget for
Yep.
future years.
Yep.
This is a transition year.
Yep.
That's great. Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you, Councilor Vardy, any questions?
Are you going to mention the seminar on 97?
Oh, yeah, thank you. I glossed over that. So actually the Village of Martin's Additions actually in response to the anti-Semitism is actually doing a webinar later this week.
Next week.
The next week. So I sent that out by email blast, but everybody, including Somerset residents, are invited to attend that. There's a registration. I think they're anticipating a pretty good turnout.
Can I say something about that?
Of course.
I want to say two things. One is the person that's leading it, her name is Sue Stoloff. She does a lot of work in the county. She goes to schools, she goes all over the place to talk about anti-Semitism. And I also want to say this is not a webinar on what happened on October 7th in Israel or the war in Gaza. This is to talk about what anti-Semitism is. And so I keep hearing a lot of the we, they. It's not that. It's really what is the definition of anti-Semitism? What is going on? What does it mean? You know, when a kid sits down at their desk at school and there might be a swastika on it. What does that mean? What does it mean when you say things about Jews? That's what this is. It's education, pure and simple. It's not October 7th. It's not the war. And I think it's going to be really good. Knowing Sue, as I do know Sue, I know the work she does is really, she's really good. And I do suggest that you don't have to be Jewish. In fact, you shouldn't just be Jewish to do this. I hope that it's wider seen than just by people that are Jewish. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Did you? Did you? Yes,
No, I'm good.
okay, excellent. Do you have any questions?
I just wanted to congratulate Matt on an excellent report on the finances. Very, very good. I think it's also exciting that we are on the major capital expenses on budget for just under budget, which is excellent. So, and it seems like there have been some cost overruns, but under $10,000 total. Have you had any OpEx cost overruns?
Those were some of them that I
Yellow
was,
highlighted?
they-
Yeah,
they're-
small dollar.
it's very small dollar, yeah.
Yeah.
Within
The
the
training one
contingency.
being the big one.
Right, yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think this is a reflection of the budget process. So again, it came through the committees. I think again, this year, we should really follow that strictly. Helps us to organize it that way. And because you can see the results. And so we are, ending the fiscal year with major CapEx done. New team. And potentially $250,000 more revenue than we are projecting. That's a pretty good number. Well done.
Thank you. Last word.
Are we, is this, our time to just ask you about anything, or does it have to be
Yes.
about the budget?
Yeah, yeah.
So with the street roadways and stuff, just out of curiosity, did we ever get any information from WSSC about those 2 water main breaks?
Nothing in very great detail. They had said that they didn't see it as it didn't change what their maintenance schedule was for the water lines in town. That it was it's a fluke that it happened in 2 of our streets, but that
Was it
it's
like-
it's weather related is what they said. So I can try to follow up and get more information, but
Well, I'm just curious, cause like on Wisconsin, like it looks like it's buckling a little, like the street. And then Hunt has had like a running water thing, and like we're seeing on Cumberland, like more water coming, like, and it makes me nervous that it's all underground and like
I think-
everything is
I
about
think-
to like explode.
I think that, I think that, after this incident occurred last summer, we had decided we were gonna ask them if they could evaluate all the water stuff in our town.
Right,
So, did we ever do that?
I had just asked them, not specifically,
Let's see what
I
they did.
there's.
You know, we have a government affairs lead.
Yeah,
it would be great to like, maybe get them in at some point, because, I'm just like, I don't know, there's
I
just like a
think we
lot of
need to
water.
do that, plus we know our friend is the.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, possibly even at a future work session or council meeting, if we invited somebody from WSSC.
Yeah, I mean, it would
works
be
with them.
interesting to see like what their plan is to like repair these water mains.
Well, it's interesting because they do have a GIS page on their website that shows all of their planned maintenance.
Okay.
And it's all of their future sewer, water projects. There's nothing in Somerset that's planned.
Okay, well, that's right, we should bring them
Yeah, there's like
That's
some
really
weird,
good.
I feel like there's like some weird stuff going on underground.
in. There's no reason.
Yeah, I mean, two water breaks in
Yeah, I
our
know,
streets, I
I-
mean, and like, people are getting water in their basements that they've never had before, there's water, I mean, it's like, it's weird.
And it might also be because. So WSSC does water sewer, but the county maintains storm drains too. I know there's no storm drains on Cumberland, but
Well, we can have somebody.
I think that'll be part of the stormwater evaluation too, looking at
Yeah.
that part of it on Dorset. things like that.
Okay, and then my second thing, so the street light project, so it's gonna be starting back up again next month?
That's what yes, that based on my last conversation with them, I tried to follow up today to clarify and see if that still was true. But yeah, that was, they had said 8 to 12 weeks I can't remember the exact date, but anyway, when I worked it back out, it should have been by the start of February was the latest that the next
Wave,
tranche would start,
wave,
yeah.
because where have they been completed?
They've been completed here on Cumberland,
Big
Cumberland, Deal, Dorset, both Cumberlands, Deal, Dorset. And that's it, yeah.
Okay. Okay, all right, great.
Just to make you happy, heavy rains in wintertime are not absorbed as much by the land outside because plants are not growing in wintertime, you know. So they're not absorbing water, which means that more of them will come into the house in wintertime than in summertime when it's the same amount of rain coming down. So what we're experiencing is that we're getting more rain than snow now. Snow, of course, is much kinder, melts slowly, rain flows quickly. So with the changing weather and getting more rain in wintertime, we're going to see more water in basements.
Be a lot
Well-
of rain tomorrow.
Yeah, a lot of rain.
And-
Well, I mean,
Coming
there's,
too, yep.
there's just like, there's water main that's just running all the time on Hunt Street in Wisconsin now. And then if you walk by Wisconsin, like, cause I walk that route every day. The Wisconsin is like getting these weird potholes and like, it doesn't look
Same
very
principle,
good.
like that is to say, there is more rain coming in winter, mainly because it's raining, not snowing. Also, actually, the rain is more intense now than it used to be. And so the storm drains are having more difficulty handling it, and you're seeing these problems. That's it.
Yeah,
Plus potentially leaks from old
yeah,
systems.
yeah, and old systems.
Okay.
Before you go,
Well, yeah, I mean, the systems are not designed for this. This is what it costs actually.
just one quick
Yeah.
thing. For a future work session, is it possible to put on the policing questions all over our listserv?
Oh, yes, that's.
Is it?
Well,
Okay.
yes. Maybe, I mean, but it would be part of the budget discussion.
Okay, but I think it's time for us, no work
Well, I
session to
think,
talk about
I
it.
think it's,
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Last question. So with this new working traffic, are we gonna call you sheriff?
I hadn't thought of that. I like the sound of that a lot.
Come up with a pay raise too.
Don't start throwing